Dirty Outriders of Enoch, welcome to Mom's Basement, from where I bring you another Outriders build video. A solo Technomancer build which makes your in-game life much easier and is a perfect build for casual dead gamers just like myself. This build works early on and carried me all the way to solo CT15. The core of this build won't require you to farm endless hours to get the right gear, cause most stuff you need are pretty basic tier 1 and tier 2 mods. This build offers great damage, great sustain, and it also has a little tip in the end which changes your survivability like immensely. It really helped me pushing after CT11 and reach CT15 at last. As usual at Mom's Basement, we will create a nice little cheat sheet during this video to give you a one slide overview of the whole build at the end. So stay with me for another must-see piece of content coming to you from Mom's Basement. And as always, remember folks, like, subscribe and hit the bell to stay updated and help me out, cause for every like Mom gives Dirty a cookie. And I love cookies. Moreover, if you're interested in seeing me live, make sure to drop by at Mom's Basement, from where I stream every Tuesday and Thursday on twitch.tv. You will find links in the description and I'm looking forward to seeing you there. And now let's get it on folks with Dirty's Toxicologist build. Okay, Dirty folks, I hope you're still with me because now it's time to share an amazing Technomancer build with you. We will go through this build step by step and create a nice little cheat sheet on the way so that you have the full build on one slide at the end of this video. Amazing, isn't it? We will start with the class tree where I show you what I picked and why. Next I will show you the skills we use with this build and the armor mods that are critical for this build as well. Then I will give you a little recommendation regarding armor stats and which weapons to pick and which weapon mods to use with them, and also what are the benefits. To conclude today's video, I added 2 last minute bonus tips at the end, and one of them will greatly increase your damage and the other one, which is kind of a must-have regarding survivability. With all that said, let's start with the class tree and the points we picked there. So here we go, Technomancer class tree. I start the way up here. Increase your weapon damage by 8% because we need all the damage we can get. Then increase your weapon leech by 5%, that's pretty useful to stay alive. Increase armor piercing by 10%, again more damage. Increase your critical damage by 15%. Then we have expose and toxin, that's the first critical part. Every time toxic is afflicted on an enemy, vulnerable status is inflicted as well. And when vulnerable is afflicted on an enemy, it is 40% more effective with this build because of mark for execution. Now let's continue to the right. Toxic afflicted on enemies lasts 30% longer. So here's a nice little synergy. Then we have weapon damage again. And remember that name, BR8 Impact Amplifier, because that will come into play later as well. Enemies afflicted with toxic again receive 10% more damage. Another BR8 Impact Modifier. And then I picked this one, Assault Master. Increase your assault weapon damage by 20%, which is a nice buff, pretty huge, and is kind of core for this build as well. Because we will use we will basically use all the weapons that are in here. Then we have increase your assault weapon damage by 12% again. Increase your armor piercing by 10. Sharpshooter, increase your long range weapon damage by 30%. I think that's against everybody that's like 29 meters or further away, or was it 20? Something about that. Then we have Grand Amplification, and that's what I said before. Increase your anomaly power by 4% for each unlocked BR8 Impact Amplifier class node. So for every one of those nodes, we get more anomaly power, and I think we picked 3 of them. Then that one is also critical. UT14 clips increase magazine size by 50%, which is huge for your sustain. The next one is Purge. Enemies afflicted with toxic receive 15% more damage again. So you see that adds up all those toxic bonus damage, or bonus damage against not toxic enemies. You get it. Then that one is pretty important. Empowering Antenna. Activating DK increases weapon damage for you and your allies by 40% for 10 seconds. This is actually huge. I don't know why there's not talked more about that. Because basically the cooldown for your blighted turret is below 10 seconds. So you can basically use the blighted turret on cooldown, and I will come back to that later. So you always have that 40% damage buff up. and that's really huge. So that's what I picked in the top tree, and then I picked in the middle tree, increase your max health by 10%, but we only picked that because that brings us to Gadgeteer. Reduce gadget skills cooldown by 15%, and we will use that for Cold Snap, because I use Cold Snap as an oh shit skill, and you will see that in 1 second. A few words regarding the Technomancer build I use right now. So the top tree works really good with weapon damage and the skills we gonna use. And I have the feeling that everything that's really helpful for damage and the way expeditions are built right now is all in the top tree. Like all the weapon buffs for the weapons you're gonna use are at the top tree. The bigger magazine is also really helpful. That's also here in that tree. So right now, if you play solo, I think Pestilence tree is the strongest of all of those three. Okay, so we completed the class tree here, so it's time to talk about the cheat sheet. So let's have a first look. Yeah, so here's the cheat sheet. As you can see, it shows our skill tree already, and it shows what we will be talking about next. So the skills we're gonna use, the armor mods, the armor stats, weapons to use, and the weapon mods. So let's go through it step by step. First are the skills we're gonna use. For this build, you wanna run Blighted Rounds, Blighted Turret, and Cold Snap. So Blighted Rounds is basically you spreading toxic, getting more damage going, and we will build on the Blighted Rounds heavily with the armor mods in the next slot. You will see that in a second. Then we have a Blighted Turret. The Blighted Turret also inflicts toxic, and with the added vulnerability, that's also a nice damage buff. And as said before at the skill tree here, our last point, which gives you the 30% damage buff for 10 seconds. That's the reason why you use Blighted Turret on cooldown. So as soon as it's ready again and you have some breathing space, throw it to get the damage buff going again. As the third option, we use Cold Snap, which is kind of a defensive AoE oh shit button. So in case you get like surrounded or overrun by enemies, that's the moment you want to use Cold Snap, or you use it offensively, because in some expeditions I like to start my Blighted Turrets, then Cold Snap, which gives me time to set the turret up and get the first few enemies out of the way. But that's really situational. So that's it for the skills with this build. Next are the armor mods, and I will run you through step by step through the core armor mods for this build. The first one is Trick Up the Sleeve. Blighted Rounds, while the skill is active, killing shots grant you 30% extra bullets in your mag. So every time you kill somebody with Blighted Rounds active, you get shots again in your magazine, so you don't have to reload, which in addition lets you run Blighted Rounds much longer. Spare mag. Blighted Rounds again. The skill is effective for 1 additional magazine before triggering the cooldown. That's basically kind of a backup until Challenger tier 12 or 13, when you keep your stuff updated. That wasn't really needed, but afterwards it was really helpful for those boss and elite mods, because you won't one-clip them anymore. At least I don't. Next up we have Critical Analysis. Increase critical damage by 15%. Radical Therapy. Deal 15% more damage against enemies afflicted by toxic. And as you've seen at the skill tree, we are all about toxic, spreading the toxic, getting the toxic on every enemy we can see. So that's another nice little damage buff right here. Then we have Toxic Lead. That's also a huge one. Killing enemies afflicted with toxic will instantly replenish 40% of ammo, and that's the important point, in your magazine. So again, it's like a kind of like Trick Up the Sleeve, a bit bigger and a second one. So that's really, those two is what keeps your Blighted Rounds up like 99% of the time. And that's huge, ladies and gentlemen. That's huge, let me tell you. Then we have Long Winter. That's for Cold Snap. Increases the radius of the skill by 66%. And that's also huge because in expeditions, the areas are kind of small, most of them, and Cold Snap is basically freezing the whole area. That's really great. And with what we picked here, your cooldown is also a bit faster. That's really helpful, believe me. So that's basically the core mods, and the rest of the mods is up to you, with one exception, and I will come to that one later, because that's like, I added another mod last minute because I struggled going from CT 13 to 14. Or 12 to 13, and then I added this mod we will talk about later, and that really pushed my survivability like unbelievable. That basically helps you out all the time. But first let's talk about armor stats, and that's pretty short and basic. So the best stats for this build, or the best stats overall right now if you're not running a normally build, are these combination. So on every armor piece you want to have these 3 things if possible. That's bonus firepower, long range damage, and close range damage. So those 3 are the best stats you can go for. So those 3 are the best stats overall. You can go for others if you like, but stuff like bonus health, that's the perfect example. Bonus health is an instant delete. Okay, so don't use that. Delete it or sell it, but don't use it. So that's the short recommendation on armor stats. Then we have weapons, and there are 3 best weapons to pick right now. Number 1 at the moment is the tactical variant of the assault rifle. So that's the burst assault rifle, and it's just best in slot for the class by far at the moment regarding the damage. And if you pre-ordered the game, let me show you, then use this one that comes with your pre-order. Great damage overall and all the stats you will be looking for. As a secondary, you can add a light machine gun. That's really good for sustained damage because of the bigger magazine, so not so much for the ads, but more for boss damage. If you find you use your blighted rounds up too soon or too fast, a light machine gun really can do wonders there. And if you don't want to use a tactical assault rifle, there's another option that comes kind of close, but not like 100%, and that's the burst double gun. That's the only one you can really come into the same damage numbers than the tactical assault rifle. So that's it with weapons. Now let's talk weapon mods. And there are basically two you want to combine really for the end game stuff. Bone shrapnel, killing shots detonate enemies' bones and turn them into shrapnel. Damage depends on your level and stuff. And that one is really great for ad clear, because later in game the bosses won't be your problem, but the overwhelming amount of ads. And with this one you just explode all those suckers away. It's also a standard mod on your assault rifle if you pre-ordered. Killing spree is really end game, so it's not really needed at the beginning, but killing spree is really strong. Killing shots increase damage by 25% for this weapon for 20 seconds. So that really racks up some nice damage buff. If you're early in game and struggle to keep blighted rounds going, or you don't have toxic lead yet, you can also use Perpetuum mobile. You instantly replenish your magazine if you kill an enemy with 35% or less ammo remaining in your magazine. So that would be an alternative as well. So that's basically the core of this build. So you got everything here: the skill tree, the skills, the armor mods, the armor stats. I would go for the weapon recommendations and the weapon mods. And now let's have a quick talk about bonus tips. So one that I've seen not mentioned enough is your last skill your last buff in the pestilence tree, and that's really the empowering antenna. Activating DK increases weapon damage for you and your allies by 40%. We talked about that one before a bit, and yes, you've always want to keep this buff up by using Blighted Turret. Blighted Turret has with this build a cooldown around about 10 or 9 seconds. Not sure, but definitely under the 10 seconds. So when you can make it, when you have the room and Blighted Turret is off cooldown, just use it and get the damage buff again. And then we have the second bonus tip right here regarding survivability. And that, ladies and gentlemen, if you struggle with endgame content or with survivability overall, this one is huge. Use it. So that's another armor mod, and that's the emergency stance. Attain golem protective effect for 4 seconds whenever your health drops below 30%. And that's huge, because that's basically a 4-second shield which makes you invincible for the 4 seconds with an internal 10-second cooldown. So that saved me, I think at the run from CT14 to 15, that one saved me like 4 or 5 times, because otherwise I would have been a 1 or 2 hit. But that one kept me going. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, Dirty Outriders of Enoch, I hope you like this build and this is something you try, and let me know your feedback in the comments. And let me tell you right now, this build is really made all the difference for me. It's fun and it makes your life so much easier. Yeah, so that's my build video for today. I hope you enjoy it. If you play other classes, let me know your builds for your other classes. Pyromancer, Devastator, Trickster. What are you running? Are you already in endgame? Did you complete the story so far already? What's your overall opinion about Outriders? Do you like it? Do you love it? Do you think it could have been better? Let me know in the comments below. And if you liked what you have been seeing and want to see more stuff coming to you from Mom's Basement, make sure to like and subscribe, hit the bell and comment below. And don't forget, you'll find the complete cheat sheet in the descriptions. And if you want to stay updated even more, follow me on Twitter or just drop in one of my streams over at twitch.tv, where I am live every Tuesday and Thursday. So that's it from me. All I gotta say is stay dirty, people. DirtyHotte out.